Hello and welcome to Tank and AFV News. My name's Tom, and today we are doing some model reviews. This is 6 models that I just got in the mail like literally an hour ago. So I just unpacked them and getting ready to add them to the shelf, but I thought I'd shoot a little video first going through them. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason to this selection other than just these are all things that were not in my collection yet. So there are a variety of different brands and different types of vehicles. And so I will talk about them, talking about the brand, the quality, and what I think about them. So before we start, these 3 on this side are all Eagle Moss. So these were all under $10, which is, I don't really like to pay any more than that for Eagle Moss stuff because their quality is not great. But they do make a lot of different Soviet era vehicles that nobody else does. Then I've got a Japanese Type 89 from D'Agostini. We got this T14 Armata, so brand new vehicle, one of the newest MBTs in service in the world. This one by Arsenal, Tanks of the World. And then going back in time, we have this British Whippet, which is from a company called Wings of the Great War, which is one that is new to me. So, starting over here with the Eagle Moss stuff, the first one we have here is this little T40 light tank. So it's very heavy, so die cast, which is sort of nice. It's got the turret rotates, and that's it. But I mean that's usually what it is for this. And it's tiny because this was a tiny little tank. You can see it's got the little propeller back on the underside there, because this was of course an amphibious scout tank. Not produced in huge numbers. And this one's obviously this sort of white winter camouflage, so I'm assuming this is kind of like a defensive Moscow in winter of 41, 42, sort of what it's intended to represent. Not a tank that gets a whole lot of respect, and I'm not sure it deserves a ton. It's just a little light tank with a couple machine guns. I think armor maximum on this thing was like 13mm, but, you know, before you pick on this thing too much, you know, a 2-man tank with 2 machine guns, you know, I mean, the Germans still have Panzer Is in service at this point in the war. I mean, they've been sort of, you know, not as many as they did in 39 and 40, but you can't really criticize the Soviets too much for still having these in service in 1941. You know, like I said, the Germans still have the Panzer I, and you could argue this one, you know, it's got more firepower because one of those machine guns is a heavy machine gun. As opposed to 2 mediums like in the Panzer I. So interesting little tank. As far as Eagle Moss goes, this one's one of the nicer ones, honestly. I'd actually recommend that one. I'm totally pleased with that for $9.95 or whatever it cost. I'm totally happy with that. Next one is an Eagle Moss, and this one a BRDM. So post-war Soviet reconnaissance vehicle. This one. I'm no expert on BRDMs, to be honest, but as far as I understand it, I assume this is a slightly later model one because it has the closed roof. I think early ones were open roof. There's no machine gun on this model. I think most of them had a machine gun. As far as detail, it does have on the underside, you can see the little sub wheels that were there to help it get across obstacles and stuff. As far as features, this is literally like a Matchbox car. I mean, the wheels are all that's it. In fact, it's about the size of a Hot Wheels car, Matchbox car. So nothing to this one. Honestly, the detail's not fantastic. This one is, you know, it's there to represent, you know, because the BRDM was such an important vehicle for the Cold War, just because it was their main sort of scout car, and they had lots of different things that they mounted on it. And then the last one, this one's actually pretty nice by Eagle Moss standards, I would say. It's got a nice paint job and looks pretty good. This is the TOS-1 rocket launcher, so it's basically just a T-72 hull. It's got this big missile launching block on the top. And honestly, I don't know a ton about this vehicle. I'm not sure anybody's written extensively about it in English. It's an artillery system, obviously. These things have seen service in different campaigns the Russians have been involved with. You can see it's sort of got the little, not spades, but these artillery sort of support pads on the back. I assume that it puts those down on the ground when launching. But, you know, like I said, for for under $10, I thought it was sort of an interesting item, and what the heck. And it's a sort of a weird little thing of my own preference when I'm ordering some of the more expensive models like these over here. I like to balance the order out with cheaper ones, so I feel like I'm getting a decent amount of stuff for my money, which I don't know if that's logical at all, but that's just sort of the way I think. Next up, another vehicle that I know very little about because just not much has been written in English on it. Is this guy. This is the Japanese Type 89 infantry fighting vehicle. D'Agostini is the one. This one, and their models are weird because they have some die-cast models that I bought, like of World War II stuff, that's really not very good. But like this one, which is mostly plastic or very thin die-cast. The details on this is really nice. This is not a bad-looking vehicle at all. So, I mean, you can see the paint job's decent. It's not glossy or shiny like plastic. Nobody else makes a model of this vehicle. I mean, there's barely, I looked it up on Wikipedia, which is honestly about all I know about this vehicle is what you can find on Wikipedia, because nobody's really written extensively on post-war Japanese armor. They have something like less than 100 of these in service. 35mm cannon. It's got missile launchers on the side there. Pretty handsome vehicle in a lot of ways, I think. Mitsubishi, of course, is the manufacturer. Japanese stuff's just interesting because Mitsubishi makes all these vehicles for Japan. They're all made in very low numbers. There's no export of them, so they're all very expensive. And like I said, there's information out there on these vehicles, but it's mostly written in Japanese, so it doesn't do me much good. Next is this one from Arsenal, World of Tanks, or Tanks of the World, sorry. Is the T-14. Now, the last review I did, I didn't show, because, some of these models come with boxes or cases or plastic display things like this. I usually just, I take them off, because when you have 180 of these things to fit them on the shelf, you can't really have these bulky boxes, but, it's sort of nice if you were to, have this as a single item, like on your desk or something, then it might be nice to have the cover on there. I usually, though, just take these off. I've got a whole box full of these base plates. And they're just simple plastic with a name on it. There's nothing particularly striking about them. But this is a T-14. So, very interesting vehicle. This one was quite a bit more price-wise than these others. This one was, I think, like $32. Which, seems like a lot of money, but then, you figure if you go buy a 172 scale kit and the amount of time and money you put into it, and then what you spend on paints and glues and all that stuff, it's not that bad of a deal. The gun moves up and down, the turret rotates, and one thing I've not seen on any other model of this scale, pre-built, it's got a little hatch that opens and closes. I mean, that's pretty cool. And then this hatch over here does as well, although it's a little more stubborn to get in. I don't want to play with it because it's very fragile. But this one's pretty exciting. So T-14. And just for comparison's sake, here's a T-90. Whoops. Size-wise, kind of get an idea. The T-14 is quite a bit bigger vehicle for Russian armor than some of its. I think it's basically the same. It's a little wider even too. But definitely pleased to add a T-14 to my collection. So since this is such a new vehicle, and they have a couple different paint options on this one. This one's sort of done up with I think this is how when these were revealed in the initial parade. So you can see it's got that star and whatnot. Obviously, you're not going to go into combat with stars and stripes on the side there. Yeah, so certainly cool. And then next is, so going from an incredibly current vehicle, the newest MBT in service, to this is one of the oldest that will be in my collection, and that is the British Whippet. Not many people make World War I stuff in 172 scale, so I was really glad to see that this company is starting to do it, and they are called Wings of the Great War. And there's a little cardboard description of the vehicle. Came in the box. These are not cheap. This one was, I think, 30 or 35, and some of the other ones they make are even more. But this thing is, the paint job's really nice. It's all metal. This is a really, really excellent looking tank. There's no moving parts on it, but that's because I mean, this thing didn't have a turret. And you know, in this scale, you're not going to have tracks that actually move. These tracks are very realistic looking. It's quite nice. It's got the 4 machine guns sticking out of the sides. Obviously, it's a goofy looking vehicle, but I mean, that's how it was designed, because they were still figuring it out. The interesting thing about this one too was it came with this base. Now, usually, like I said, like that other one you saw, they're these really flimsy plastic things. This thing is not. This thing has a substantial amount of weight to it. It's got this really sort of nicely textured top that's painted to look like dirt, and these different track marks, and the vehicle really sits on it quite well. And so I was really, this one I'm really tempted to put this on the shelf if I can fit it. This one, interesting enough though, there's no plastic cover that came with it. So that's sort of interesting. You have to get one yourself, I guess, if you can find one that'll fit this base. But really pleased with the quality on this. I might get more of these. It's really exciting that someone's actually finally doing World War I armor. You know, so far what I've seen, they're mostly focused on airplanes, but yeah, and of course airplanes are just more popular. You know, don't blame them for that. But you know, they do have a few different tanks out there, so maybe I'll pick up some more in the future. Anyhow, this is the latest additions to the collection, so hopefully people found this interesting. And I'll probably keep going through and looking at some of the older stuff. I've got a couple other orders that'll be coming in, but there's stuff that that's, you know, I bought on eBay that's being shipped from the Russian Federation, so I have no idea when it'll get here, because like they're like, it'll be here in like a month or two. Okay, great. So it'll be some more interesting stuff, but we will have to wait until that stuff gets here in the post. All right, well, thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next one.